Hello and welcome to our webinar. This is the AI Enhanced Archiving Charting Object Storage Evolution with Perifery and Seagate. Welcome to everyone joining today, and especially, of course, welcome to Andy Palmer.
Hi.
Andy Palmer is working at Seagate, and perhaps you'd like to give yourself an introduction, Andy.
Yeah, sure. Very briefly, I run the team in the UK and Ireland that manages the data solutions and cloud storage group.
Excellent. And you may or may not know, but I first came across your name way back because I believe you used to work at Avnet and you've been in the industry for an awfully long time.
Yeah, I was working for Avnet for about 6 years, but quite a long time ago, actually. I was deployed, started in their office in Stevenage, then moved to Munich and then followed by Paris. So quite a good journey with them.
So a good knowledge of data and storage.
Yeah, absolutely.
We shall claim, and I'm sure it's very true. I know it's very true. So myself, I am Jonathan Morgan. I'm the Senior Vice President of Product and Technology in Perifery. Previous to Perifery, I was the founder of Object Matrix, one of the world's first object storage solutions. And that company actually was acquired by Perifery around about a year and a half ago. And so I've had the privilege of working for Perifery Data Core ever since then. So my knowledge of object storage actually goes all the way back to around about the year 2000, which is pretty much in the start of the technology. We have an agenda today to go through, and the agenda is to talk about how Seagate and Perifery are working together, a little bit of a dive into the history of archiving, where I will probably get a little bit emotional, to be honest. Then there's a object storage structure and key principles overview, followed by how are we using AI in this world today, with Q&A to follow and to close. So, Andy, Seagate and Perifery, two organizations working together. How does that work? What do you see in that relationship?
Well, as you know, I think it's quite common that a lot of hardware manufacturers, will claim that they offer a solution, but the truth is we don't. We just build the building blocks, if you will, of any solution, and it's the software which really that's where the customer resides. That's the real user experience. So it's really important to us to working with partners like Perifery to make sure that our product works seamlessly and safely with your product, and that the user experience is the best that it possibly can be. Because the truth is, nobody wakes up thinking, I must buy a hard drive, I must buy some storage, I must buy some cloud. They wake up with a business problem, right? It's about how to make my data safer. How do I make it more enabled so I can get more value out of it? How do I don't know, decrease my Oracle queue list? Seagate will help that up to a point, but it's the software, it's the application layer, which really is where we think the true magic resides.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think especially in the media and entertainment industry, what people want to see is the solution working in their workflow. You can come up with all the stats in the world, but if you can't show it working with Avid, with Adobe, with any of the other editors or applications, then there's a sense of disbelief, a well-founded sense of disbelief, because it needs to work in the media and entertainment industry. And what I love about Seagate and working with you, Andy, and with the organization is that I think more than any other organization of your size, you're prepared to build a lab, have the systems engineers work with our system engineers, and actually prove out that workflow in real world scenarios. So it has been a pleasure working with Seagate over quite a few years, I have to say.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I was at the recent media production show, and a guy came onto the stand and said, vendors always talk about speeds and feeds, and yet we don't operate in that world. We operate in our world. How do we use that technology to further our own interests? And if you can describe that, then you're onto a winner. And we work very hard to get beyond the data sheet, to get into the application. So it's really important that we have really good partners like you to work with.
No, thank you very much. Well, we've done a little bit of back scratching, but I think there's an awful lot of truth in what we're saying, and there's a lot of synergy between the companies which we can bring to the customer. Now, we mentioned the history of archiving, and this is where I get emotional, because I think data is really, it's the modern cultural assets of a nation. So much is recorded on media, and so much of what happens in and around us is now on video, it's on sound, and everything else that goes with that. But over the course of the last, 100 years of media, would you say, it has seen an awful lot of media lost, whether it's been because we've had it on tape that's burned, whether it's been on in warehouses which have had humidity problems, or whether it's just because we can't afford to keep that data on appropriate technologies. We've lost media, we've lost events, we've lost what's happening around us, and we're the poorer for that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And we know that a lot of broadcasters had a policy of overwriting tape to save money, right, and to save space. So there's an awful lot of footage which is gone forever, and that's a real shame. It's a real loss, I believe.
Massive. And when would you say media recording started?
Wow, it depends on what you mean by media, right? The sort of modern media, probably, hard drives last sort of 40 years, I think. But really, you can trace archiving right back to writing on clay tablets, right? The etymology of the word comes from ruling, governing. So literally, knowledge is power. And you can leap forward through centuries where monks were recording what goes on, the printing press, books, the socialization of media and information and data. But then it became so vast that some organization was needed, some kind of way to catalog it properly. And we saw that the Dewey Index appear, which gave some structure. And I always think of that as the first example, the early example of metadata, whereby you're organizing your assets, your artifacts, if you will, in some kind of order that can be repeated and expanded. So I think it's got a long and rich history. And in the last 40 years, where we have got more computerized, more familiar methodologies, it's 45 years, I think, is probably fair to say. And really, I think what it represents is the uncoupling of a person's location to, where all data, the archives would reside in a library or in a museum or in a university somewhere. The uncoupling of location to where the actual user is and wants to absorb the information. I think that's been an important thing, and I was reading in preparation for this meeting, the National Congress, Library of Congress in the US has got something like 170 million artifacts, and all of those need to be catalogued somehow, searchable, and of course kept safe. These are the sort of tenets of modern archiving. Those two things are absolutely paramount.
The tenets of modern archiving and modern metadata. It reminds me of a story, of something that happened to me when I went to the British Film Institute, and I said to them, how much film do you have? And the person answering said 38. And I thought, oh, is he going to say 38 petabytes? He said 38 acres of storage. And I
Well,
suddenly realized what he meant, which was they've got 38 acres of warehousing. And those warehouses, when I looked at the pictures of the warehouses, were floor to ceiling with tape after tape on shelves. And then how do they index that? How do they know what's on those tapes? Sometimes it's a label. That's all they've got, one label. And that's what's supposed to help them find what they need to find. And there's so much great footage there that can be monetized, can be shown, can be used for research.
yeah,
Again, cultural assets of a nation. And whether you're a sports company, a broadcaster, a post house, there's so much wealth in these archives.
yeah, and it's just sat there gathering dust, right? And there's so much potential in there.
I have a video of gathering dust. Let me show you this one. So here we're seeing the first place we put an object matrix cluster was actually in a disused underground tunnel in London, which, well, a tunnel, a part of the tube system that was never actually turned into a tube tunnel.
Yeah,
And there were kilometer after kilometer of, well, sometimes files, but digibetas, VHS, Betamax, Winchester disk drives, hard disk drives, LTO, everything in between, just all of this stuff in a place where it essentially can't be used.
it's funny, isn't it? How it's quite amusing now, but that was cutting edge technology when it was first. And I
And what
want
we're doing now, maybe that will be looked back at, but it's
to
so
say, yeah,
far advanced this.
looking back and saying, wow,
So here we come on to our discussion about object storage and why that started. So we had tape, and we knew that tape wasn't necessarily the best way to keep data because uh, video on tape, it needs to be maintained. You need to rewrite tape. You need to have a lot of manual intervention around that. But the file system also had its issues because as a file system grows and that metadata index becomes absolutely huge, it isn't necessarily the best building block for long-term archive, for media libraries and the such like. And along came object storage with its structure and principles. Uh, Andy, have you been involved with object storage? Would you have some comments on object storage?
yeah, for sure. You know, if you look at what the artifacts, what the objects are these days, it's largely unstructured. We've got much more than regular tabulated database type data now. So what we're finding is that at the scale of data that we're talking about, the traditional approaches of a file-based system was indexed and in a nice, neat location. That's great up to a point to help you organize things, but beyond that certain point, and that point changes from customer to customer, by the way, it becomes untenable, right? You just cannot keep on bolting on more and more storage blocks. I'll sell them to you, of course, joking aside, but it actually wouldn't be the best solution for a customer, right? So we needed to find ways of having this scale out architecture where it's almost limitless, right? Because customers' demands are increasing. And when you think about the sort of data available in the created in the world, rather, is about 175 zettabytes upwards per year being created, and yet we only store 10% of it, and so most of it is just deleted. So all the expense of creating it has happened, and then none of the benefit of storing it and using it. We think that's a real shame. So yeah, so object storage has become vitally important in our world.
I think some of the key principles of object storage is the ease of scalability with future-proofness on top of that, because what we do know is that we mentioned it earlier, technology will change, technology will update over the next few years. But do you want to have to update your archive completely every few years? No. Do you want to go through the next LTO version? No, you don't. But if you start going on to disk, do you want to have that kind of similar kind of migration. No, you don't. So you want to have a technology that will be able to incorporate the latest hardware with the previous generations of hardware seamlessly.
Yeah.
Also allow you to remove older generations of hardware if you want to. You want the scalability to go up to the petabytes and then the exabytes or whatever we go to in the future in the media world. We want to be able to keep the metadata with the data because we absolutely want that to live the same time span as the data does, as the assets do, because we want to be able to search them, right? So object storage gives us that. And it also gives something else which is really key at the moment, which is a great level of cybersecurity, cyber
Yeah.
resilience, because we can make objects immutable. We can make the way that we audit and keep and have access to those objects at the top level of technology, you know, certificated access with keys, etc. It's absolutely key nowadays. And in fact, there's new uh, demands in Germany and in Europe with the NIS2 legislation they're bringing out that everything has to be kept with cyber resilience, and object storage provides that. So it's really key. And the most amazing thing about object storage is, number one, it's so easy to manage. It is easier, I would argue, than any file system out there. You just basically build and grow your archive, let the software do it for you. But the second amazing thing about object storage is very few people ask for it.
Specifically, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but
It's
it goes back to, doesn't it, what we're saying. People don't want to buy this stuff. They just want to be able to use it and use it efficiently. And it's our job, I think, as the vendors, to advise them and provide them a solution, right? And to say it works, you know, and it works because it works. And there's three things that you're going to demand from it: longevity, scalability, accessibility, and security, of course, is sort of underlying the whole thing. So yeah, it's
and that's what people ask for. I
yeah,
need a system that can do those things. But the point being, they don't care what the technology is under the hoods, but they do care about what that gives them. And what
yes,
that gives them are the things you say. And actually, those solutions, you know, people really don't care what it is under the hoods, what the nuts and bolts are. If it gives those characteristics, those principles, then they're happy and they'll get that solution.
yeah. We always say that they care twice when they've run out or it's broken down.
We've had that. Unfortunately, we've had customers who perhaps have chosen not to go with us, have gone with a different solution, have lost data, and then come back and said, okay, now I know why you said we have to do the cyber resilience thing nowadays. We have ransomware, etc., etc.
Yeah, we get it all the time.
Object storage lends itself really well with artificial intelligence. Would you like to talk about this subject, please, Andy?
Well, I'm not an expert, to be honest with you, but what I'll say is that you know, they AI enhances object storage because it automates the metadata extraction, content tagging, intelligent search, and so on. Helps optimize data placement as well as retrieval. And I think that there are some really good utilities in an AI stack which would just really enhance the customer experience and make them more efficient. And you know, better able to deliver what they set out to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of AI technologies began their life in the cloud. So they're written with S3 APIs in mind and those ways of accessing the data. That's the first thing to say. And they also will combine cloud data with on-premises data at times. So you want to have a technology that works with a similar interface wherever you're accessing the assets that are making up your AI analysis. The fact that AI works really well with S3 API is one thing about working well with object storage. Another thing is, of course, where do the results of that AI analysis, AI inference of information from the video, where do they go? Well, object's great, right? Because you can put the results with the original video,
Yeah.
and that will live with the original video. So it continues to be searchable. And all of this just adds up to a very natural fit between object and AI. You could
Yeah.
you could do it on file. You might not get the scale that you get with objects. You might not get the resilience that you need and the security mechanisms that you want to have with the different algorithms working from different places with your objects. But however, you can do it with file, but it's a natural fit with objects.
I agree. And AI as well, it bolsters security because it can identify threats much faster. Can bolster predictive maintenance because it can, see and prevent downtime, saving billions potentially in lost productivity. So it really is, you know, a very interesting advanced technology to really start thinking seriously about how you can deploy it.
No, absolutely. In the periphery world, if I could just talk about that just briefly, we run some of the AI in the cluster, so we're able to run algorithms and extract metadata from the video to make it searchable from within the cluster for additional optimization. We can run AI at the edge, on-prem, in the cloud. So we can combine all of these places because I think as great as object storage is, the day of the monolithic archive is a little bit dead. You're going to have a big archive of
Yeah.
your data, but you may well have other bits that are in the cloud, other bits that are on the edge. You need to be able to combine those together when you're talking about making intelligent solutions that bring out the information from there. And then there's the whole part of having a conversation with your video almost. You can now type in things in something like a chat GPT type format. I want to make a video and I want the video to be a fast action video and about 30 minutes long. And can you suggest to me some clips that I might want to use to make that video? And suddenly back comes a search result that has some car chases in it. It has a picture of a Ferrari, it has a skydiver, it has all of these different things, and this combination of using a really powerful tool like AI with video makers who are just so skilled at their profession is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Do you think that anyone's ever going to type in, I want two guys talking about archive and AI into
Well, if AI builds its results on what's out there in the wild, it may well feature us for years to come. But that's very scary thoughts. I'm not sure that we want to go too far into that one.
Yeah, and I think as well, going back to what I said about the hardware and the requirement for longevity, what Seagate has brought out is Core Vault, which is self-healing data storage. We use erasure coding, which can identify within the disk which platter's got the problem, and run through a series of tests to try and correct the problem on the fly with no interaction with the compute. So customers can dedicate more of their CPU cores to doing the more exciting stuff. So they get better value out of their whole solution, or they can remove those cores completely and save lots of money in the most expensive part of the stack. And that's a unique technology to Seagate, which we've launched in the UK. It's available in various sizes. But it really plays to that whole thing about, is my data safe? Is it secure? Can I reach it? And this goes back to what I said at the very start about building Seagate being the building blocks of this whole solution piece.
Thank you for that. We have reached the end of our slides. We have some questions. I have my feed here. A question here about the future trends that we foresee in the intersection of AI and object storage. So
I think we've covered
yeah,
a lot. So enhanced data management, it can optimize and automate data retrieval and storage and lifecycle management. We see improved security measures for object storage can detect and prevent threats quickly and more effectively. Intelligent analytics, I think it can analyze much larger data sets than maybe humans can to provide better insights faster. So time to insight is reduced dramatically. And finally, we know that a lot of data is being produced at the edge. So edge computing integration, we think, is really important as well. And it can enhance those edge computing capabilities, allowing for, I'd say, faster processing and faster analysis of data from those edge networks.
I think some of those touch into the world of AI ops as well, with the optimization of tasks of moving data around, whether that decision is made on the last used time of the information of the assets, or whether that information is in some way predictive. Something like a famous person has maybe passed away, and therefore we need to grab the video of that person out of the archive because it's highly likely we're going to be making some news articles on that person very soon. I see it also coming in increasingly in legal ways as well. One of the challenges in video for a long time has been around the legality of what video can I use, what video can't I use, and a lot of that lies in legal documents that are associated with the video, and being able to analyze and interpret those for controlling of which video should or shouldn't be put out there could be really, really useful as well. There's so many areas that AI is going to touch, I believe, as we go forwards.
Yeah, and how do you think that companies should prepare for these kind of advancements?
I think you need to keep things. First and foremost, if you're not keeping your assets, if you're not keeping the information that goes with those assets, then you're really losing the ability to take advantage of that information in the future. Even if you can't do that today, you absolutely will be able to in the future. And yeah, we create assets left, right, and center in this industry, and we should not be losing them. We should absolutely be monetizing them now or in the future and building up the value of our organizations within that information data set.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a good place to end the discussion. Andy, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone listening as well.
Yeah, thanks for everyone. Bye now.